Hey guys, welcome back. It seems literally like I just said this in the Envoy video, but just when it seems as though things can't get any weirder, something else happens and it just drops the scene on its entire head. This one does have a little bit of a different feel to it because with the Crim, with the Envoy videos, it's like, where are they going to go next? What's really the fit for them? This one's a little bit different. So, of course, if you haven't seen it already on Twitter, this is the tweet from Formal. He says, hey, read if you're H4F. Of course, we know what that means. And it's basically this tweet longer where he just explains kind of what's going on. So, I'm not going to read through this entire thing, but kind of right through here, it says, if you're wondering why I'd like to pursue other options from competing, it's just not the same anymore, right? And that's something that we have to understand. I'll read a couple other excerpts there, but he's been doing this a long time. It's been an entire decade. And as he goes on to stay, after 10 years of scrims, this is 6-8 hours a day, every day of scrims against multiple teams, tournaments, grinding. It's tiresome. And I feel like we've been able to see that a bit as of late, especially on his facial expressions and the way that he reacts. It just seems like the constant L's, the inability to find what exactly they're missing in their gameplay seems like it can be frustrating, right? So as we continue on, he thanks his mom and his dad and so on and so forth. He does mention, like, to the fans, I do want to point out this section here. It says, to the fans, especially the green wall, you now have my full attention. And that's great because the last thing that we want is Formal to move to Texas. And now we've started to see him in podcasts and in different trivia shows and whatnot. And I feel like what he's been able to do content-wise with OpTic has been incredible. That's the last thing that we want to see go by the wayside. And it does seem like that's going to be his main focus going forward. So he says, I'd like to see where the creating content might take me. It's definitely grown on me throughout this year through the podcast and other videos we've made at HQ. I'd like to personally thank all of you for the continued support over the years, except for this last bit of you. All love, though. I know you guys want my team to excel, and I do too. So I guess if you're looking at this as just kind of face value, I guess it makes sense because if you're thinking about where OpTic goes from here or where in specific his actual career went from here, I personally feel like if they would have picked up another top SMG with Envoy being gone, maybe somebody like Kleenex or who knows, one of those other cracked top tier SMGs, and they put in the work and they're able to be prepared, especially in game modes like S&D, I feel like they 1000% could have competed again, top 3, top 4. We saw at the beginning of the Black Ops Cold War season just how good that squad was. But it seems like as of right now, he's going to step back, and I guess I get it. But with that said, now there's a gazillion things up in the air, right? So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at our ongoing graphic. It seems like literally all these pieces were put into place not even a day or so ago, not even 24 hours ago, and now we're making changes all over the place, and now things open up quite a bit because if you look at this, you take Formal out of OpTic. He's obviously mentioned he's retiring. He's off the board. So where do they go from here now that Envoy has also been dropped? Seems like they're missing two. And I don't even really know where to start in terms of where they could go from here. I think, first of all, if you're trying to replace Formal, you have to get one of those top tier ARs. So at this point, the biggest thing that I would want to do is just take those ARs and just put them over there and look at what the options might be. We do know that Crim is out there, but if you're basing off of just stats and trying to get the best main AR that's out there, not quite positive that's the move. The other one that I have just had slotted in this entire time with LA Thieves has been Octane. So if you take Octane, I don't know how this would fit. Obviously, when it comes to just his performance in general, the dude is an absolute menace on the map, whether it's last year in MW or the year after that in Black Ops Cold War. Even though he has been on Seattle, what he's done and the numbers that he has put up have been out of this world. But I think this opens up a ton of things moving forward. The other Of course, if you're looking at more ARs, Clay is also out there. So is Clay a potential option for this squad? I mean, I don't know if he would want to go back. I'm sure that there's no way possible he would turn it down. But now, again, when you look at these other rosters, it's like, well, everybody's basically out there, right? Because you could continue this. You could look at Kenny. Would Kenny potentially go to OpTic? I don't think so. It seems like he's pretty set at LA Thieves, but now it's everything is out there. I know there's been a ton of talks about Kleenex, and when it comes to Kleenex, we know his past alongside Insight. So imagine those two going there. If they teamed up with Scump and Dashy, I mean, that seems like the best of all worlds, right? So let's go ahead. Let's move everybody back to where I had them. But if you're looking for a main AR and you take somebody like Insight, now what you've got from the AR position with Dashy and Insight would be absolutely incredible. Insight for me was probably, I know Arcides is up there and there might be one or two others, but Insight, since he came on the scene, has been one of, if not the best main AR in the scene. And we all know when it comes to Dashy, the consistency that he's shown throughout the entirety of this Black Ops Cold War, if you're just looking purely based on stats, and I know that's not how we like to do things, but if you're looking at respawn consistency, what he's done in hardpoint, if you just look at overall KD, kills per 10 minutes in hardpoints, the kills that he gets per round in S&D, he has been OpTic's most consistent player this year. So you match those two up, now all of a sudden, do they have a flex and a main AR that can compete with Celium and Arcides? Because ultimately that's the gold standard, right? That's what you're trying to do with each and every single one of these moves. I think absolutely if you continue down the line and go where we talked about earlier with bringing Kleenex, this is a perfect squad. I would feel absolutely terrible for Ultra. I would feel gutted if this ended up happening, but you'd get the super aggro, really fast SMG that has the ability to slay with a BZ, which there aren't too many people in the CDL that can do that. So you would get Kleenex to go alongside Scump. Again, Scump had his best year in Black Ops Cold War, the best year that we've seen in probably 3 or 4 years. I mean, the dude was absolutely lights out. You have to give him credit. So if that was a potential pairing, then what happens with Dashy and Insight? That would be like, if you're an OpTic fan, I think all of a sudden you have OpTic in one hand, you have Atlanta in another. Now you've got, okay, let's see what happens. If those two teams faced off, sure, I still think Simp and Abizi are probably the best SMG duo in the world. Probably will be for the foreseeable future, but I think those two squads would match up pretty well. The other name that is obviously out there is this guy. So again, just from the contacts I have with Minnesota Rocker and being on one of their podcasts and being a co-host for a podcast and everything that I did with them with the co-stream, I would hate to see this happen because I love the dynamic between Standy and Attach. But again, the goal is, how are you going to match up with Simp and Abizi? And we've seen this year that there's maybe 3 or 4 other SMGs in the league that can do that. Standy is one of them. So if Kleenex goes there, if Standy goes there, of course, you could also go this route with Hydra. We saw as soon as he came into the mix that he instantly made NYSL, along with the team, one of the best hard points, if not statistically the best hard point team in the game. Shotzzy is there also, but Shotzzy seems like he is a cornerstone. He is a mainstay for the Dallas Empire. So where will they go from here? I just feel like now all of a sudden, instead of trying to just replace Envoy, right? Because before you have Dashy, you have Formal, they match up pretty well together. So instead of just having to worry about, okay, let's get an SMG duo besides Scump, now all of a sudden this has kind of opened up to duos that are out there across the league. One other name, I don't believe that Cammy is available, but if he was, Cammy and Kleenex going over to OpTic, that seems to be like where I'm sticking right now. I know a ton of people in the comments are talking about Crim going to OpTic. I don't know. I don't see that. It seems like a couple years ago, before the Modern Warfare CDL season kicked off, seemed like that was pretty much done, right? Sure, maybe they've squashed some of their beef. I just don't see it happening, but who knows? I mean, you have the biggest franchise still in the CDL with 2 openings. What will happen from here? It's hard to tell. So comments, put them down. I've been responding to comments the entire day. My other videos have been going absolutely wild. So anything you put in the comments, I'm going to read, I'm going to respond to. So make sure you do that. Make sure you leave a like. If you're new around here, the subscriptions are going crazy. Everything's going crazy during roster mania. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you please leave a like as it helps out the channel. And with that, I don't know, maybe I'll talk to you in another hour after something else crazy. But with that, we'll see you in the next one.